It's all gone. Gravy.
Rachel Lucas is 25 and married to Gary. For the last few months, she and Gary have been living with Rachel's family. Rachel is one of 4 children.
I've got a big family that there's always kids coming and going, there's cousins, nieces, nephews everywhere. It's very hard for me and Gary, really, to imagine our life without a child.
Over the last 7 years, Rachel has suffered 6 miscarriages.
It was the first time that I fell pregnant. I didn't really know what was going on. It was quite awful because I didn't know what to expect, and it was completely natural. I saw everything.
She kept it. She wrapped it in some loo roll, and she kept it. And she said, "Oh, I don't know what's happened, Mum. What's?" And I actually held it in my hand, and I knew that was my grandchild. It wasn't just a bit of, bit of nothing.
The house Gary and Rachel bought as newlyweds is on the market.
When we first come to choose it, it was very much looking at it as a family home. Now that we're here now, it doesn't feel the same. It's very empty and kind of cold feeling, as in not feeling like a home. I often say to Gary, why don't you just go to someone else, because someone else can give you a baby, no problem. And I feel inadequate as a wife a lot of the time. When I see people walking around pregnant with just kids after kids, it does make me just think, I only want one, just let me have one, you don't need it.
As each pregnancy ended in failure, Rachel's doctors were unable to explain why. So 3 years ago, after her 4th miscarriage, she was referred to a specialist clinic in London.
Recurrent miscarriage clinic can help you.
To be referred to this clinic at St Mary's Hospital, couples will usually have experienced 3 or more miscarriages. Professor Leslie Regan and a team of specialists are committed to finding out why 1% of women are destined to miscarry repeatedly.
Okay, so why would she have been given the steroids? Yeah, to mature the baby farms. Okay.
As head of a busy obstetrics and gynecology department, understanding miscarriage has become a central part of Leslie Regan's working life.
I kept finding myself in the middle of the night talking to couples who'd just lost a baby and not really knowing what to say to them. And I went to the textbooks, and it wasn't very convincing there either. And I started to get quite interested in what was obviously a very common problem, and why it was that some couples went on to have repeated miscarriage.
1,000 new patients arrive at Leslie Regan's clinic each year, hoping to find out why they cannot carry a pregnancy to term. It's 6 months since Rachel was last at St Mary's. She has just discovered she's pregnant for the 7th time.
I don't want to get excited. My mind's like saying to me to stop, reserve yourself, because you need to be prepared, expect for it to happen again, because that's what does happen, that's what we're used to happening.
Investigations into the cause of Rachel's miscarriages started 3 years ago. Leslie Regan's team has run scores of tests on Rachel's blood and reproductive organs, looking for any abnormalities.
So we usually start off by looking for genetic abnormalities. If the genetics is disrupted, we've disrupted the blueprint for life right from the beginning. There may be an abnormality of the shape of the womb. We look at the hormones which are driving the whole process of pregnancy, right from the development of the fertilized egg, and we're looking for other factors which may attack the fetus as it's developing.
For many couples, though, there will be no answers, as the clinic's investigations reveal a problem in less than half the patients. So far, Rachel's test results have all been normal, and her miscarriages remain unexplained. In the absence of a diagnosis, doctors must decide what can be done to prevent a 7th miscarriage.
We're going to do the internal scan just so we can have a nice close look at what's happening.
Rachel's pregnancies have all been lost in the early weeks, and her doctors believe the embryos haven't been implanting properly.
Implantation is the bedding in of the tiny little embryo into the womb wall. And the way in which the implantation is carried out and the quality and the depth of the implantation effectively dictate all of the rest of the events of pregnancy.
Rachel isn't quite 6 weeks pregnant, so it may still be too early to confirm whether the embryo she's carrying is alive.
Just give me a few minutes.
The silence is the worst. When you lay down, the quiet, the movement around, looking, it feels as if it's 15, 20 minutes long when it's like 5, 10 seconds.
At 5 weeks, we would expect to see a pregnancy sac, hopefully a little yolk sac, sometimes even a tiny fetal pole with a heartbeat, but not always.
Okay, Rachel, if you look over on the screen here, you can see a flickering. They're the pulsations of the baby's heart beating away.
Today I was convinced that it was going to be gone already.
Do you like a picture?
Please.
Okay.
There's been times that I've come when I've thought that everything's all right and it's not. So now it's more of let's just think that it's not all right, and then obviously the joy when it is.
Rachel will return to St Mary's for weekly scans to chart the progress of her pregnancy. Many of Leslie Regan's patients travel long distances to be seen by some of the world's leading specialists in miscarriage and for the chance of a diagnosis and a cure.
The patients start being seen at 9, but we have a team meeting at 8:30.
We have, blood samples from the women who've had miscarriage and their partners. We're also collecting tissues from the next pregnancy, doing various studies on emotional.
Joanne Brown is 35. She has had 5 miscarriages and is making the 200-mile journey to St Mary's from Scarborough for her first round of blood tests.
Again, look. I think we found all of them.
Joanne lives with husband Dave and daughter Olivia.
It's me who usually needs to hold your hand. Come on. My mum lost 5 babies. She doesn't like talking about it because it makes her sad, but she likes talking about when I was born because she says I'm really special.
Yeah.
Look at Michelle.
When we first started trying, we had to actually go and see somebody, have some help to get pregnant. Unfortunately, the first pregnancy ended in a miscarriage, and then we went on to have Olivia successfully.
Look.
And we've actually had 4 more miscarriages since we've had Olivia. So it's been a long road really. Olivia's 9 now, and we're still at it.
I just want to show you. I like it when I come home because I can watch TV, and I've seen with my friends you've got to fight over which TV channel you want to pick. But I think a brother or a sister would make quite a big difference because, I've been single for so long, it's kind of like maybe be a bit hard for me to start sharing as much.
Joanne and Dave had decided to stop trying for a baby, but then Joanne was given a book on miscarriage written by Leslie Regan.
When I read Professor Regan's book, it offered hope. I really felt like there was hope. I just thought, well, I want to see somebody who specialises in miscarriage and maybe they'll be able to find something that nobody else has been able to find.
It's more a last chance rather than the beginning.
Joanne's blood will undergo the clinic's rigorous testing regime. When she returns to St Mary's for her results, she hopes there will finally be an explanation for her miscarriages.
But you never ever forget the due dates, the day you lost it, the due dates. Emotionally, it's really hard. It's like a big black cloud. But you've got to go on with your daily life.
Rachel is 8 weeks into her pregnancy and is back at St Mary's for a scan.
We should be 8 weeks today.
Going into them scans is when I get my anxious time of, in half an hour's time or an hour's time, I'm going to know whether this baby's still here, still growing or not.
Just need to press a little bit, Rachel.
50 miles away in Kent, husband Gary is waiting for news.
But each week so far, there's a bit of anticipation because obviously we're getting into a bit of unknown water. So it's quite, every week now is a longer week, so.
Give me a minute or two to get the picture up. We've got a heartbeat, okay? Nice and strong heartbeat, okay?
At 8 weeks, amazingly, the baby's organs are all in place. And much of the activity in the next month is to do with establishing blood flow into the placenta from mother to baby. Much of the work we do is looking for factors that are going to upset the establishment of that blood flow to the baby from the mother.